Good evening. Good evening. We greet you tonight in the name of all that is good, all that is holy, and all that is sacred, and in the warm and loving energy of this ministry, Spiritual Life Center. If you're here for the very first time tonight, we especially want to welcome you because we know that you are not here by accident. Everyone in this room is here by divine appointment. And we're so thrilled to have you with us tonight. And I'd like to introduce Paul Sanchez. He is one of our chaplains, and he is going to lead us in our opening prayer.
Take a symbolic deep breath. This air's a little rough on us. And settle in and become present. Thank you, God, for being in our presence, where two or more are gathered. There you are in our midst, as we are all together right here, right now, to enjoy one another. Because without you, it's just not the same. And we bless this service tonight, bless each other, and our prayers go out to those suffering, and we hold the high ground for them. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Paul. The chaplains have a healing circle next door right after this service, so after we have this wonderful conversation with Suzanne, just trot on over there and continue that energy. This Sunday is Gratitude Sunday, and it's something to do with pie, something to do with it already being sliced. So, be here for that. And also the directories are here. If you had your picture taken, yay! So if you are a person who did have your picture taken, the directories will be out at a table in the courtyard on Sunday. And if you only come on Wednesdays, see me, and we'll see if we can maybe have some together for you guys next week or something. So, and next week is Wednesday is Thanksgiving Eve, or in my world, it's birthday Eve, but that's a whole different thing. Yeah, I get to have my birthday on Thanksgiving this year. But anyway, Thanksgiving is our Eve, we're calling it Come to the Table, and it's our annual Thanksgiving communion service. And it's really a wonderful time. Some people, when they hear the word communion, those roots from the liturgical churches start to, but this is really a very nice, quiet, contemplative, meditative experience. Reverend James and I will be pretty much hosting that, and then Reverend Louise and Sherry Rain will be part of the actual communion process. So we will have soup at 6, and then we will begin the service at 7. And we hope to see you all there. So then you can go pig out the next day. Has anybody in the room never heard of Suzanne? Joy-Livingston. Suzanne's been around for just a few years, like almost all of SLC. And I'm going to cheat. I'm going to read from the back of her book, and then she's going to come up, and we're just going to have a chat about all kinds of things. She's been writing and sharing inspirational stories since she was a child. And her first book, By Divine Appointment, how many people have read that one? Everybody, practically. That was published in 2008, and it just took her a little while working on it, and here she is with her second book. And on the back, this says, in her newest book, Suzanne tells warm and powerful stories of people whose lives have profoundly touched hers. Her writing and interviewing skills reveal to us not only her personal spiritual growth, but how even the simplest interactions and events can bring long-lasting and life-changing results. Her stories reveal that truly, it's not the same without you. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Suzanne Joy-Livingston.
Hi.
Hi.
Is my mic on? You can hear me?
Mic is on.
Okay.
So we have a crack AV team there.
I say.
So I know you're really excited about being here. I'm excited about having you up here. And the first thing I want to ask you before we get into the actual books is, were you on the metaphysical spiritual path before SLC, or was SLC how you got your start? How did that part of your life begin?
Well, Jerry and I were married at Christ Unity Church, and I'd been attending there for a while with Dorothy and Phil Pearson, and it just got too far to go. And Jerry found in the paper one day a picture of Michael and Faith, and he said, we can walk there. And we did. We could walk to Spiritual Life Center, and our first day was February 7th, 1999. So we were latecomers. It'd been open for 3 months.
Yeah, you're practically natives.
Yeah.
So, but how did you, did you grow up in this kind of teaching, or did you find, obviously you started at Christ Unity. How did you get into the teaching in the first place? What got you on the path to begin with?
Well, when I started working for the state, I was working on 10th and N Street, and across the park was the bowling alley church. And at a hard time in my life, a friend took me there at lunchtime, and they had silent unity at lunchtime, and that was my intro as an adult.
Okay, yeah, most of the people here came into our teaching a little bit later in life. We have a few who came up in it. So as you've walked this path, and you say you've always been a writer, but has your writing changed? Has the teaching? You can set that down if
I would
you
like
want.
to.
It's okay.
Yeah.
has before we get into the books in specific, but how has the spiritual path you've been walking informed and changed your writing over the years? Because obviously if you started as a child and worked your way through.
How'd that happen?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I remember writing was I won an American Legion writing contest when I was 11. I wrote about the Statue of Liberty, and I won it and got a certificate and stuff. But it was assignments that I wrote. I really think my writing, my serious writing, was the benefit of working for the state for 29 years. That's what I did for them. I wrote things that were a little out of the norm. I wrote things that people didn't have to go back and pick up the pieces from. It was a goal. When I wrote it, I didn't want to be called to testify about it, so I, you know?
That's some good motivation there.
Yeah, it is. And then when I started traveling a little bit, I was inspired by it, by seeing different people and being on an adventure, and I needed to write about those things.
Do you find writing to be, well, not an escape from the world necessarily, but is it a place that, is it a meditative experience for you?
Very much.
It's torture for some people, so I asked this question.
Yes, it's torture. The first word is for everybody, every writer in the world. The first word is torture, by definition. But once I'm in it, it flows. It flows from me, and you know where that comes from. You know, that's a God thing. When we talk about this book, how that came about, how that happened, I don't know how it happened. Is it falling off?
Yeah.
I think I need a piece of tape. And you guys have Scotch tape in your pockets?
I think it's
that
okay
better?
now. Yeah, it's better.
Better?
It's better. So everybody wants to help.
I have a jiggly head, you know, when I talk.
So, I mean, it's fairly, I think, explanatory why you wrote the first book, By Divine Appointment. It was to record and the history of SLC and how we started and where we came from. Is that, I mean, what was your inspiration for that?
It wasn't really an assignment, actually. I wanted to tell Faith's story. She had no predecessors. Her parents were gone. Her sister was gone. She had her kids, and she had Michael and all that. And we know the story after that. But before that, there was no no one to tell her story, and that was my intention.
Okay, I don't think I realized that. That's really good to know. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it was really difficult. Her journey, we knew, was going to be short from there. And I began interviewing her, and I did that for 14 months in the last year and a half of her life.
How did that change you? Oh, I'm
It-
sorry. That's a simple question. No,
Yeah, really.
I'm up here to
That
ask
was
the
my
easy question.
answer. Yeah. Woof. I did not, even though I worked for the church and I went to church there, I didn't really know faith. Working at the church wasn't about personal relationships. It was about being in your office and doing your work. And I wanted to know her. And when she stepped down, I think it was then, I went home and I wrote a 14-page proposal, which came out of God knows where, and took it to Michael, and I said, I want to do this. And this is not what I planned to do. I thought it was going to be about faith, and we were going to do that. And then I thought I would do the first 5 years, which of course is not what I did either. It just came out to be exactly what it was meant to be, was what it took, what the journey was, what the path was, to bring Michael and Faith together, to bring in Claudia and Ann and Mike and all the people who said, you need to come back here, we need you to be here. And all the people on that path, it just seems very intentional to me. And so that's what I wrote.
Well, I commend you on your listening, because it's so easy when you get into writing to make you to want to do it your way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've talked about that argument with spirit or with the muse. It's like, no, it should be this way, and it's like, no matter what you do, the story doesn't go the way you think it should.
Not at all. I thought I was going to write about the first 5 years. I made it to the first service. And that's where it ends. And that was where it was supposed to end.
So moving on, what inspired you to, and I realize it's been a few years, so you've been working on this for a while.
10.
10 years. Have you been working on it the whole time, or did you take a break and then did you get a message? Like, oh, write the book.
Well, the stories were piling up. I was writing them. The first one, I think it was I wrote in 2006 about Cruz Azevedo. I had a vision, and that's the poem that's in the book. And then I started writing stories about my experiences with the people in this community. It changed me. Every time I brushed up against someone, I realized that I was changed by that, and I wanted to say thank you, and how much I value the people that I write about and everybody whose life touches mine. So that's what I wrote.
Yeah, I mean, we are doing a lot of life touching with each other here at SLC.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're a pretty tight group in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're changed by everyone you come into contact with. That's why we're both wearing the same colors, you know.
I got up, I was getting ready to get dressed this morning, and I thought, oh, we can't be on camera and clash. And I almost called Suzanne, and I decided not to, and I was digging around in my sweaters and went, oh, I forgot about this one, and put it on. And then she walked in and said, how did this happen? And I said it was spirit, because, yeah. So that was.
You look great.
So do you. So what was the hardest thing about writing this new book?
Deciding which ones to put in it. I've got 28 more that I've been working, and I work on them when I work on them, and they come out the way they do, and there's lots more. And you know, I didn't want to leave any of these stories out. I didn't want to leave any area of my life neglected or, you know.
So how did you choose the stories?
They just kind of fell together, and I had a great deal of help from my friend Martha Week, who read everything over and over again for me, and helped me choose. I kind of did them in date order, but then we moved the first story, Dedication, which is about all of us, to the front. And she threw out a couple and added many more and kept me working for a long time. And then the people I wrote about got the stories too and had an opportunity to give me their 2 cents worth. I worked with Kay Ryan on the stories about Gordon Bowles and his journey through Alzheimer's. And that was published in the Pathways, Alzheimer's Pathways magazine. And then they asked for another piece. And then Kay wrote a poem that went in there. And so everything just kind of fell together the way it was supposed to.
Well, of course, in the end, it always does,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Yeah. You wrote, there's a fairly long story in there about a series of weddings you went to, but what was so cool for in reading it is that you said after you had gone to all these weddings, it was when you realized that it never occurred to you that it was a same-sex wedding or that there were people of color or, different whatevers, ages, and that it didn't dawn on you until all of those things were over. And then somehow, what was that? Let's
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah. Well, RJ's twin sister, Stephanie, wandered by the house as she did when she was working at the co-op down on our corner. And we were talking about it, and I said, these great weddings, we had these 3 weddings, RJ and JG's, and then Anthony and Ted's, and then Shanna and Kathy. And I told her, I said, it really hadn't occurred to me they were all same-sex. And she said, not to mention ethnicity and age. This is who we are. This is who we have become. That's not what matters. It's the beautiful people that are in our lives, that are present. And that's why I wrote that. That story was a lot of fun. I mean, it all took place within a month, all 3 weddings.
Wow.
Really. You guys got married in June, and then Ted and Anthony was in August, I think. July. And then we went to that, and the next Thursday, Shanna called and said, we're on our way to California. Can we get married in your backyard on Monday? Sure. Sure. And
I'll just whip out the wedding pagoda, and there we go.
And we did. Jerry was on his way to Home Depot to buy flowers for the backyard, and we got the backyard transformed and figured out what to serve people. It was a dozen people in the backyard, and Shanna had to be on the road by 10:30 because she had a gig at a new church in Kansas City, and they were driving. So yeah, it was a journey.
Well, and that's actually just sort of typical of SLC. It's like, oh, let's do this, okay, and everybody just scurries around and we do it. And
Yeah.
This is Our Lady of the very last minute. This is
Yeah.
what I call SLC.
Exactly. It's a good place for me to be.
We do it very well
I
here,
think so.
I think. So you had talked about one of the stories that you would like to read.
Oh,
Would
can I
you
do
like to do that? Yeah, sure.
Oh.
Would you like to hear her read from the book?
Oh, page 49, in case you were wondering.
Anybody wants to follow along in your book?
No, you don't have to do that. This is actually my story. Of all the stories, I wrote about all of these wonderful people that I love, and this is my story about me. This story is based on a conversation with my friend Martha Week when I expressed my delight over the amazing people who had come into my life, she said to me, "Have you looked in the mirror lately?" I start each day looking into a wall-sized tri-fold mirror mounted over my bathroom sink, something I was once loath to do. While slightly disheveled from sleep, the face I see now reflects how profoundly my life has changed and how grateful I am to have you in it. When I moved into this house more than 30 years ago, we realized yesterday it's 40 years now, there was only one tiny mirror in the whole place, the one attached to the front of the medicine cabinet. It was scratched, rusted around the edges, and delivered a modeled version of a face I barely looked at. My mother objected so strongly to the fact that there was not one full-length mirror, she finally bought and installed one on my bathroom door. I don't remember how or why, but the next time she came for a visit, that mirror was gone and not replaced for 10 pretty sad years of my life. Happily, the face I see now is no longer alone. Each morning, when I look in my mirror, I am joined by the beautiful faces of my 3 sisters, mind, body, and spirit. In the left fold, I see wisdom born of history and personal challenges. In the right fold of the mirror, I see physical strength and good health, sometimes struggling with old business, but never giving up, always trusting, willing to step up to the plate when called. And in the center, right in front of me, I see beauty, integrity, and non-judgment. I see the face of love. Who are these sisters? What are their names? Where did they come from? All you really need to know is that you're one of them. You are my Anam Cara, my soul friend. You are the faces in my mirror, shifting from one frame to the other, encouraging me forward, anticipating what this new day might bring for me. And when you wonder how you came to be there, ask yourself, have you looked in the mirror lately?
So over the past 20 years, you've seen a lot of people come and go in terms of leaving the planet. And you said that you have a poem in there that, well, the vision you had.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you read that one to us?
Sure. This is about Cruz Azevedo. How many people, did you know him? Does anybody know him? You know Maxine, the greeter. This is her husband who passed in 2006, I think. Yeah. It was before we went to Bali, I know that. Cruz Azevedo and his wife Maxine were founding members of Spiritual Life Center. They were also original members of the volunteer greeters team. Cruz ended his journey on this plane in 2000, while Maxine continues to serve at SLC. And I had a vision. I saw Cruz dancing up a crooked path on a rocky hillside. I watched with closed eyes and an open heart as he spun and clicked his heels together to joy-filled music. I was frightened at first. Why would I be chosen to receive this precious gift? He was so close. Would I be next to travel this sacred path? But no. He was close, only for the instant it took to recognize him, as if he knew that I would faithfully report what I had seen. And as I watched, he moved briskly up the path. Reaching the top, he did not pause nor look back. Instead, without fear or regret, stepped forward into his next adventure.
So over the years, there's been obviously, I'm sure, gradual and maybe not so gradual spiritual growth as you have walked through all these different things and all the different things you've done here. You've been chaplain, you've been in the choir. What was your job when you actually worked for the church? What would you,
Volunteer
oh,
coordinator.
the volunteer coordinator. Okay. Give her a hand for that, please.
To my friend Cheryl.
So all of the different things that you've done and all your different involvements, which one, well, I'm not going to ask you which one was the most rewarding because I think that's not fair.
The one now.
The one now. Yeah, where I am right now, right? But how do you think you have grown? I mean, how do you describe what's been happening to you over the years? I'm not sure how to even ask that question. So
Well, yeah, and I do have an answer. It's that I volunteered to do this, that I can come in front of this room full of beautiful people because they let me, because they're present for me, because it's all right to be who I am. And that's a huge lesson for me, huge lesson for me. Faith in Action has been amazing, an amazing experience. And I always say, oh, this is the best one. This is the best one ever, because they are. They're the best ones ever because I grow so much, even when they're hard. And they can be.
So, do you plan on retiring anytime soon?
From the church?
From whatever.
I retired from the States 16 years ago.
Right.
Wow.
So, I mean, do you have dreams of going and sitting on a desert island and just writing stories? And
I do that already.
she does it already.
I'm there. I'm in that. I don't plan to retire from life until I'm forced to.
Which probably means just going on to the next adventure.
That's right.
Yeah,
I
which is
believe
not
that.
really retirement, I don't think.
Yeah.
So,
Dorothy, I'm going to tell you this. Dorothy Pearson, for some reason, when I first got into Unity, she said something that made me think her vision was when you leave this body, you get a new one, and that's not a bad thing.
by the time most of us leave,
I mean,
we're
oh,
ready for a
really?
new one
Oh,
anyway.
okay, I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've talked about that there have been some sad and difficult times in your life. Did your writing help do anything towards carrying you through? I mean, obviously your spirituality did, but does the writing, I mean, has that been part of your process of working through stuff? I mean, because obviously everybody's got stuff, right?
Yeah.
Anybody in here not have stuff? Okay. So, I mean, has that been a help, or are those times when you didn't write at all? How do you work through those difficult periods?
I probably write more when I'm challenged. When Jerry was being treated for cancer, there was a lot of time to fill because he was having treatment and needed to sleep and needed to rest, and I filled that. That's how the book got finished. I mean, that's what I did with that time. And I wrote a lot during that. So there's a prize in every box of Cracker Jacks. I think that,
There's a prize in every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, which book is your favorite?
Between these two,
Yeah,
definitely the new one.
the new one.
It's mine. This was a gift to Michael and the church. I mean, I gave it to the church. This is mine. I really own it, and it's like writing songs for me. Writing is like music to me, and I want people to hear it. I want people to read my book. I want them to know that I value them.
Well, and you also said that this was really an assignment from Spirit, an assignment.
It was
that's
an
like,
assignment.
And so this was more, I mean, probably all writing is an assignment in some level, everything that we do, but at the same time, it's like you had more freedom because you got to write it the way. Although you told me at one point, excuse me for pointing, that you had another idea for this book, and it wasn't going well until you finally listened. I don't remember exactly what you said there, but you had one idea of how this one should go.
And it changed, and it always does. It's that the first story in the book, Dedication, is about, I started writing about the past, the past, and oh, how it was, and oh, how we couldn't, and those feelings that many people, the early members had. But then I started looking at, when we were doing a new member orientation, and I began looking at these people who were new, who came after me, and I saw, when I stopped looking at me and all the people that are me, that they had their own bittersweet journey here at Spiritual Life Center, and that it's part of the promise. We were promised an ever-evolving ministry, and that's what I want to be part of. I want it. I want the change. I want the history to matter, and I want to be part of the weave of this church.
Well, the energy behind getting the energy that birthed SLC was huge, and I remember in 2000, it must have been 2001. I was working for this very, very small business, and the owner came, and he would talk on and on about this Spiritual Life Center and how wonderful it was, and he never said it was a Unity Church, because we all know that at that point it wasn't called a Unity Church. Yeah. But he would say something, and I would turn around and I'd say, oh, they're teaching this, this, and this, which is what we did. And he'd go, oh, no, that's not that at all, which was pretty hilarious, because it's exactly what he was saying. But the energy and the excitement, and I never made it down there. I never went. I was kind of doing my own little thing at the time. But I was on the fringe of, I was watching people be so incredibly excited that something with a lot of energy was coming up. Because traditional Unity churches can be pretty quiet. I mean, they just can. It's the one I started in. It can be very, very quiet. And here comes this energy. Here comes all of this. Let's do something.
Yeah, let's do a show.
Let's do a show. So you all, the founding members came out of that energy, and then we're all coming along afterwards going, this is very cool, but we don't have that sense of that because we weren't there.
Ownership.
Yeah, the ownership is different now, and we still have it, but it's different because we weren't part of starting that. We weren't part of that birthing process. Because
well, I think we are. We all are part of that.
It's an ongoing birthing process, but that beginning energy of pushing, SLC out into the world, it had carried such energy with it.
It sure did. Because everybody was a part of pretty much everything, things happen. When, Faith's service, one of the members came and put a penny on every chair. That wasn't invited. It just happened. People would just bring things and do things and be part of it. They would always be a part of it. People, when I was the volunteer coordinator, somebody would come and put a tiara on my head and just would do things or step up. But I still see that. If somebody gets sick and someone's not here, someone just comes in and does it. It's still there. That potential to be birthing is constant. I watch the children's program, which I'm really excited about. Because in the early days, we didn't really have any kids. We had 6 kids, I think. And now I see kids who came up in this, and I thought, I would have loved that. Wouldn't you have loved to learn this stuff from birth? that it's all good, and that we're one. That would be so neat. And I watch Cameron and the Lawson family, and I watch Aiden and the kids. These kids are turning into the next adults that they're going to do things we don't even know about. That's so exciting to me. So maybe we just need to change our thinking a little bit and see it as all, this is new. 20 years is young.
It is,
I
and
mean-
you know, as each group or generation comes through, and you know, there is newness, and it is different, and it is evolving because churches are changing, and you know, the whole spirituality. We're getting so much farther away from religion and much more into spirituality all over the world or all over this country, and so we're
Yeah.
so positioned to, you know, It was a good thing that got started way back 20 years ago.
Yeah, yes, I agree.
Yeah, so are you willing to answer some questions from the audience?
Sure.
Elaine, could you maybe, oh, there's a microphone, there's a microphone up here on the, thank you. So, questions? Ask her the hard ones, guys.
You know, I don't know if this is a question. I'm probably going to go straight to like a testimonial because I just want you to know you're so approachable. I've known you for years.
Yeah.
And
a
you're
very
very
long time.
approachable. And so by being in your presence, it's easy for me to be a better version of RJ. So I'm glad I'm here today. Now, where you're sitting is where JG was standing, and where you're sitting is where I was standing when we got married in this very room. And that was an epic memory as far as I'm concerned, you know. And thank you for writing that story.
I love that story. I love that story.
So I had the privilege of walking S Street and having S Street adventures with Suzanne for 5 or 6 years, whatever. And when I first came to SLC, I remember this lady and her husband sitting. You either were in front of us, or in front of me, or behind me, because I was kind of brought to SLC and set adrift. But I remember about you was that you were someone said, "Oh, that's the church historian."
I have a badge. I do have a badge that says
that's
that.
what it was. But I haven't, because of our situation, I haven't been near you for a while. And I want to just say, I miss you.
I miss you too.
But I challenge you, Suzanne, never to stop writing, whether you do another book or whatever. Please keep writing. You have a gift, and you bring out the best in us when you write about us. So thank you.
Thank you.
More questions?
This is not a question, but I'm kind of a newbie around here. And I did go to Pioneer, you know, for a few months, and I enjoyed it. And I was there for Faith last time. And when I came over here, Michael was here. I came to the Wednesday night, and then all of a sudden he's gone. And one of the congregants said, you ought to come on Sunday because James is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd heard little whispers around, about the difficulties and having the new senior minister and all. And I love the chapter when you interviewed James, because I love the way you saw something in him after your
Yes.
time in the restaurant, and you were happy about it.
And I hold that. I hold
yes.
that lesson from him.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have to remember that I was a jerk when someone
yeah.
cuts me off in traffic. You know, sometimes I have to remember that I was a child,
Yeah. But you honored him, too.
and I do. I do honor him.
Maybe
That's
you
it.
should quickly read that little story so that everybody knows what we're talking about here.
Okay, I have to look in the list.
That's what the table of contents is for.
That's what it's for. I know.
That's why they were invented.
I love my titles. I think they're funny. Okay, here it is.
I'm glad you get
Page
to.
85 in your hymnal. Okay. I was well prepared to interview Reverend James Trapp at Panera's that day. I had a list of 8 questions designed to elicit exactly what it was that made it not the same without him. Little did I know that what I was to learn from him was not a result of my insightful questions, instead, that I only needed to listen. Shortly into our lunchtime interview, a nearby baby began to cry, and cry, and cry. Although we pushed on and the baby's mother tried her best to quiet him, I began to feel anxious. What should I do? Should I cut off the interview? Should I suggest that we go back to SLC? What should I do? Quite a conversation I was having with myself instead of listening to Reverend James over the increasingly noisy ruckus at the table behind us. Possibly distracted by the noise, but more likely by my obvious discomfort, Reverend James paused to say, "Sometimes I have to remember that I was a child." And then continued with what he was saying. We spent the rest of the hour completing an in-depth interview and were on our way, him back to SLC and me to transcribe the tape. I wouldn't know where to start in relating the many interesting concepts and ideas we discussed over lunch. When I was later asked how the interview went, it was you that asked me. I surely said that talking to him one-on-one was an opportunity not to be missed. He is thoughtful, he's well-spoken, and he is wise. And most importantly, he answered the question I was there to ask. What is the gift that Reverend James brings that makes it not the same without him? Although our discussion was fascinating, it might not have happened but for his simple, reflective words early in the interview. And it was not just for the moment in time. Every time I find myself losing focus because of things outside of my control, I hear his soft voice intoning. Sometimes I have to remember that I was a child.
So, other
Yes. Hi.
Hi,
You know I adore you.
I love you too.
Yeah. So I'm not going to give you, accolades because we all know that how great you are. But I do have a question for you. You being the historian, where do you think SLC is headed?
Well, I'll still be there. It
That
could
is
be
the
wherever
perfect
it
answer.
is. Yeah, wherever it is, I'll be there. And this guy will be there with me.
Ditto what JG said about you. But you said that you had no faith, and then you had a chance to spend time. Did you get to know her?
That's an interesting question because I learned a lot about her from other people. And I got to be with her and learn about people that are going through impossibly difficult situations. And she, all through it, never lost hope, I think. That she was present. Judy, you remember. Yes. Tanya, you were. Yes, it was. She changed. We watched her, and she just never stood down. She never did. She danced off the stage once. She was up there and she was dancing and she fell right off the stage. We helped her, at Pioneer, much higher than this stage. She just never stood down. She was present.
And so, when I came, there was still a lot of grief around. It took it's taken a very long time for the grieving to, work through. And I think for me, when I first came, what I ran into was the grief and not the stories, not the happy stories about her. And it is so good for me, and I'm sure many of us newer people, is that now there's been enough time that people are starting to tell those stories.
Yeah.
That, and where it came from. I saw her speak one time, and I was having a really hard time finding a church where I was comfortable because I had such a spectacular start in Unity. And I remember thinking, this woman I could get behind, and then they must have left town or something, because I'm pretty sure I saw her at Christ Unity.
We
So I
did.
never had that, yeah, but I never, when they came into their own, I never had that experience. So it is, I think, heartwarming for a lot of us newer people to start hearing the happy stories, or the stories of the courage and the stick to it, and the never really giving up.
Well, I was thinking about this the other day. We found a copy of The Quest, the Jaffola book, in my library. I don't know what I have. I have a lot of stuff. And Steve Rout pulled it out, and he said, "Oh, this is so cool. We need to look at this." And it reminded me that when Faith was at Christ Unity by herself, 'cause Michael was settling things up in Washington and getting ready to move down, and she went to the class and met a lot of people that are still around. It was a one-year program, and people, "Oh, Faith, you're gonna teach this." And she said, "No, I'm not the teacher, I'm the student." And she was always that. She was always learning and always very present, and she'd go and be very excited in programs and support the people that were offering it rather than making it about her. And I loved her. I loved her for that. It was a
Thank you for sharing
Sharon.
your stories and your heart, and I love you. And I love the title and the concept of the book. I know you've talked about, the sense of community. It's not the same without you, and that it takes all of us to make this place what it is, and that we're all, a vibrant and important part. And for some folks, it may be hard to connect with others. And so I just want to see if you can talk a little bit about what community means to you and any advice you may have for connecting.
I'm here. Come talk to me. I love this church, and I love the people in it, and the people in this room right now, I think, know that about me. But I'm not the only one. That's what we're like. We're available to each other. And I said this to a woman that I was at a retreat with one time. I said, what I know for sure is I'll never be hungry. I'll never have not a place to sleep. I just know that. There's safety and security, but it's also that net that keeps me creative. This is your church. You cannot fail. You cannot fail here. You can do anything that you want to do, and I'll be here, and everyone in this room will be there to support that. I remember Judy, when I talked to Judy, she is one of my heroes. She was the one that wouldn't give up on this whole Dorothea Puente business that was going on. She's that social worker. We have some of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life at this church, in this room. You can interview all of them. Everybody's got a very important story to tell. And I've found out about a lot of them. I love to interview people. Tell me your stuff. I love it.
We have time for one more question.
Well, good.
Hi,
I think
Jeff.
I have the closing question. Hello, my old friend.
Hi, Jeff.
One of the most amazing things about being at SLC has been reconnecting with Suzanne, who I knew years and years ago, and what a delight it was when Jana brought me to SLC in 2005, and I saw that you were here, so that's been great. So my question is, What is Spirit whispering in your ear about your next book?
Oh, write it, for sure. Sit down. And there's a thing. I find pennies that, we all pick up pennies. They remind us of faith. I pick up dimes because my husband says, get off the dime and get to work. And then they appear. I have a lot of stories already in process, 28 stories already on my list, page 2 of the stories that I sorted through. And you could be in it, Come and tell me. There's a lot of stories here because I want to know you. I want to know people. I want to know who they are. And because you're in my life, it's not the same without you. And I believe that with my heart. Love you, Jeff.
Suzanne, this has been way too short. It's wonderful. Please stand up.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can stay up here or you can sit down, whichever. We're going to do
I
that.
want to sit down.
Okay. Yeah, give her a blessing.
Oh, I'll stand for that.
I don't remember the blessings, so someone. I know you do.
I can. Thank you.
So now, as we obviously, there's going to be more of this in the next few years as Suzanne continues to write, and we continue to do Wednesday nights. So this is our time of the love offering, and we know that as we give, we receive and keep things in circulation, and giving with a full and willing heart is the highest and the very best way to give. And so let us take our offering in our hands and do our blessing together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
Thank you, God.
So let's stand and connect every single way you can. Let's see, I'll sneak over here.
I go over here.
Is everybody hooked up somehow, some way? Ooh, that wasn't a good use. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. I think humor is the bedrock of Spiritual Life Center. Okay, let's all take a really deep breath. Okay, deep breath together. And let's say the prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And may the joys of the world go with you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.